Welcome to this episode of The People Dividend. I'm your host, Mike Horne, and I am absolutely thrilled and delighted to have as our guest today Karen Ball, who is a certified change management professional. And she's got this amazing background that spans a few decades now, helping individuals and organizations implement effective changes and achieve desired benefits. She is a ProSci Senior Fellow, a ProSci Executive Instructor, and a trusted change advisor. Her extensive experience and deep understanding of ADKAR, which we're going to talk some about, and change management are evident in her frequent sharing of insights in webinars, customer presentations, and conference keynotes, reaching hundreds of organizations, thousands of learners. She's an expert at making complex ideas and problems easier to understand so people can learn and reach their goals. Lots of facilitation of ProSci management programs, ProSci webinars. And Karen, let's just start here by welcoming you to the People Dividend. Why don't you say a few words about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I'm thrilled to be here. I love the focus of your program and just thrilled to share some information with your audience. So, yeah, I've been, I've had some fun reflections over the last year and a half or so. I hit my 40-year mark since I took on, stepping into the professional work world after university and graduation, and just those reflections that occur at kind of that milestone. And looking back, I'm just excited to have had the opportunities that I've had, and they all lead up, just like all of us, all of our paths lead up to where we are today and what we get excited about talking to others about. So, my focus is change management, the discipline of change management, helping people make those transitions from whatever they call or describe their current state to the future state, individually or as part of organizations. So those are the things I'm passionate about and thinking about and sharing about.
So you just marked this milestone in your career, decades of experience. You're an expert in transition, how people leave one state and enter a new state. What would you say about your own experience at milestone in transition?
Yeah, that's so fun to think about. I love books, right? I've just had the pleasure and opportunity to write one for ProSci. We can talk about more detail, but I read a book, about a year and a half ago called From Strength to Strength. And it was, many of us have heard of it. It was new on my reading list, and it showed up at exact moment when I was trying to imagine what my late career progression would look like. And I wanted so much of that to be about giving back and to sharing some of the stories. I love the stories. I have so many great stories. And the insights that I've gathered over the years. And it was just that turning point where I, explained to ProSci that I'd like to step aside from sitting in an executive role, sitting, on the executive team at the organization and covering really, important functions of the organization, but that I wanted to contribute differently. And so, my little lesson learned in all of that is don't be afraid to ask. So many of our organizations want to help us be, and, as you talk about, to be the best that we can be and where our energy is at that moment. And ProSci was gracious enough and honored me with the opportunity to write over the last year an update for the publication that was written by Jeff Hyatt, our founder, that was released in 2006. So as you can imagine, a lot has happened since 2006, almost 20 years. So it was an exciting opportunity. I was nervous. Oh my gosh, was I nervous, right? There's so many people who have contributed to the body of knowledge on change management and specifically the ADCAR model. But to be entrusted with that task really has been such a blessing for me over the last year and a half.
That's so amazing. And that is what I'd like to discuss now is the ADKAR Advantage, your new lens for successful change, which is that ProSci publication that you wrote. As you've stated, it's expanding on insights that were made nearly 20 years ago, Model for Change, 2006. So you have this tremendous legacy that you're carrying it on. Was it a reflection of the role that you had in the organization, a reflection of your experience? a new way to take the organization? What were you thinking about?
Yeah, I sat down in advance and, anytime you're asked to write an update for a publication that has been so incredibly successful, as the ADKAR book written by Jeff Hyatt has been since it was published in 2006, you're taking on a rather interesting task because certainly I wanted to honor Jeff as the creator of the ADKAR model and all of the work that he went into creating that model. It wasn't something that happened overnight. He spent years studying change patterns for over 700 organizations to develop the pattern spotting that he did around individual change, which is described through the ADKAR process of change. And I can explain the ADKAR model and, the acronym and all of that. But, I think the biggest task for me was to bring it forward, to not only honor the past, but to take it to new places. Because so much of what has happened since 2006 as organizations, right? Faster change, more complex change, more interrelated change, more, not just planned change, but all of the things that show up in our paths as organizations responding to immediate need and long-term planning and all of those things. But so much of the essence of what we're capturing and what Jeff articulated through the ADKAR model is that ultimately change is individual. There is no such thing as organizational change. It's only all of the combined successful change journeys by each person impacted that delivers organizational success and outcomes. So my task was really, multifold, was honoring the past, and I wanted to take the content to new places.
As I think about some ways that we consider change, one attributable to the late social psychologist Bob Tannenbaum about holding on and letting go. And but there's more to it than all of this in the ADKAR model, isn't it? So can you say some words about the ADKAR model and what it means? Long ago, I was ProSci certified, and it's a good experience to have, but why don't you talk about it? This is as close to native as I think we'll get.
Thanks. Yeah, it was fun because I had a stretch objective when I wrote the book to have Jeff write the foreword. And he has, since stepped away from his founder role many years ago, even before I joined the organization in 2016. So rather nerve-wracking to have the creator of the model read the book and to give his blessing, which he did through a really succinct and beautiful foreword. But, the whole point, and, ADKAR is an acronym. And for anybody who's been ProSci trained, certified, attended webinars, read materials, gone to the website, you're going to see ADKAR. And it's really the essence that sits behind all of the work we do. I like to use the analogy, right? If this is sticky, right? If ProSci was a global fruit stand, right? If the organization was just a global fruit stand, ADKAR would be the golden apple that flavors absolutely everything that we do, because role-based change, role fulfillment, organizational change, all of those processes depend on each person going through, as I said earlier, a successful change journey. And the ADKAR acronym stands for awareness. So I am aware of why now, what if we don't, what is changing, what isn't changing. D is for desire. It's that personal choice that I make to come alongside to support the change. And sometimes that's dependent on what's in it for me. I need to know, what am I getting out of this? And it makes sure that it aligns with my personal motivators. And that's really a fascinating story. We could spend all day talking about desire, but the personal motivators and then organizational motivators. K is knowledge. It's about knowing how, having the skills and resources and ability. I am able. I know how, and then ability is I am able. So the distinction between knowledge and ability, and we always, it resonates for me, is knowing how to play golf and being able are two very different things. And, we see that inside of our organizations. We train people, but don't give them the coaching and the resources and the time to become proficient and to meet whatever level of proficiency is necessary for success. And oftentimes we don't even describe what proficiency looks like. So there's not just a moving target, but there's no target. And then the last element is reinforcement to make sure changes are sustained. I will continue to. So I know why, I have chosen to, I know how, I am able, and I will continue to. Those are considered the I statements that are the declarations around ADKAR progression.
It's so interesting to me as I think about the first part of the ADCAR model. It reminds me in many ways of an approach I use in a lot of my work is a Gestalt approach, which talks about awareness. Do you have the awareness of what's in your system, what's external to your system? But it starts with some level of awareness. And then energy, really is the next phase is, do you have the energy to tackle this issue, to deal with this issue, to think through this issue, to take it to a new level? And then a choice. If you have the, what are you going to do about it? And it's sort of the beginning of the Gestalt interactive cycle of awareness. And so both sort of grounded in change methodologies.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's lots of models that pick up on many of the same elements. And the models like ADKAR, that's been around since the late 1990s, the reason why they're so sticky is because they capture the essence of something. There's something inside of it that's true. And for the book, I reached out, I didn't want it just to be a reintroduction of ADKAR, the ADKAR model, the acronym. Of course, that's, important in the book. But I reached out to ProSci customers and partners and people around the world to capture what I call ADKAR stories. We talk about ADKAR stories all of the time. And I had over 50 people contribute an ADKAR story that's incorporated into the book. And it's 20 countries and, 6 continents. I mean, the universal nature of what ADKAR brings to the table is it helps us simplify something that's quite complex, and to capture the essence of that individual change and transition model. And, there's stories in the book that are very, fun, personal stories, like Graham, who learns to swim as an adult, and he goes through his ADKAR journey, including, learning to swim from 15-year-old instructors and what that did to an ego of a man in his 30s. But also, a mom who, is trying to motivate her son to eat more healthy. And she, Joachim, her 6-year-old son, she convinced him to eat broccoli, thinking about the change from not eating broccoli to adopting broccoli in his diet through the lens of ADKAR, and found out that his individual motivators were to be better at sports. And so she linked up the nutrition associated with broccoli and his individual motivation to want to be better at sports. And, those are fun stories, and they help bring the model to life. And then all the way up to, multinational global organizations, one pharmaceutical with 50,000 people going through 5,000 migrations on their digital technology journey of transformation, and how they architected all of those 50,000 ADKAR journeys in such a way that they engaged leadership, and they engaged people managers and communication and training and motivators and successes and celebrations, all through the lens of ADKAR, to stay on track, on budget, and deliver the outcomes they wanted. So the variety of stories is quite complex and fun. It's fun to see all of it through the lens of ADKAR.
It's such a great way to think about it, and clearly that's probably why it's a bestseller in management skills, a bestseller in strategic management. And you can learn more about the ADKAR Advantage, or New Lens for Successful Change, if you visit ProSci.com. And I'm sure there's a link to the ADKAR Advantage. I just had a colleague who has had a very successful book career, and in fact just launched the 6th edition of one of her books. How much of an extensive rewrite did you do, following, 18 years, it's been in print?
Yeah, I picked up on 3 elements that I wanted to bring forward. I talked about honoring the past and taking it to new places, but the promise of ADKAR hasn't changed. The promise of unlocking change through the lens of collective individual journeys to deliver organizational outcomes. So part 1 of the book is about how one person goes through change, and that is most aligned with the original book. And of course, there's new stories in there. And then in part two, I took it into the model of, how groups of people go through change. And that's what allows us to take that scalability, common language, process, structure and intent into an organizational setting. Because most organizations bring changes to life through a project frame. They use projects as a container for, taking the organization or portions of the organization from a current state to a future state. And how you can integrate ADKAR milestones right into a project planning structure. Your project life cycle can have an awareness milestone and a desire milestone and so on and so forth. And what that means is that it guides our activities, what we're going to do to help everyone go through their ADKAR journeys. But it also allows us to measure whether or not we've done it. And you can check for barriers and you can check for blockers and you can look for risk mitigations and all of that to ensure that ability at go live is our target for the outcomes. And then part three is all about organizations becoming better at change. So that conversation really steps into what I think is most informative for organizations today is we've got to build change muscle as part of all of the capabilities that we have. Things are not going to slow down. Things are going to continue to accelerate. And we need to learn how to step on the process of change as a welcoming opportunity for meeting our business goals and objectives, our strategies, and of course, treating people the right way through the process. I've told many people for years, why is change management so empowering for me as a discipline and a place to spend my professional energy is I just feel really good knowing that organizations that become better at change naturally treat their people better, right? It's the right way to treat people. And they go home every day feeling empowered and involved and engaged. And, even though the changes that are happening, they may not have described as being, what they saw as a necessary change, right? A lot of times we don't see the big picture as organizations are always making movement towards, their goals and objectives. But it means they have a better way of treating their people. We recognize and acknowledge that change is stressful, and we support, equip, and enable people through that process. And that's an incredibly gratifying opportunity as organizations embrace becoming better at change.
It seems that one of the things that's so great about the ADKAR model or the ADKAR approach is its ability to scale. You spoke about the individual who wanted to learn to swim, the mother who wanted to connect eating healthy foods with performance. You spoke about change happening out of project teams and about organization-wide. Is that part, do you think that's part of the stickiness of the ADKAR model? Is this idea of scalability, or am I way off base?
No, you're absolutely right. Mike, it's not, and it's scalability. And it's also, I think, another really critical element of that is common language. There's a great Oliver Wendell Holmes quote about simplicity. And he talks about simplicity on the other side of complexity, that without understanding of the complex nature of something, we really oftentimes are summarizing something reductively. We miss the point of the complexity, but sitting on the other side of complexity is not just a way to capture the essence, but a way to communicate. And it's fascinating, right? When I've seen organizations where people leaders, for example, can sit down and have some of the most productive coaching conversations through the lens of ADKAR. Do you know why this change is happening? And are you comfortable with that? And have you chosen to participate and connected it to your own motivators and the organization's motivators? Do you know how? Somebody might say, you know what, this new system we're implementing scares me. I've been the subject matter expert for 10 years on our previous platform, and I'm just feeling like I'm going to be insignificant or, not have those. So all of a sudden, it gives language to, I don't feel like So the coaching conversation can turn into, would you like to be a subject matter expert in this new platform? Would you like to get some extra training and coaching to step into that role, even though the software and the tools and the approach we've been doing for years is changing? And I can say, yes, that's exactly what's important to me. So, it's scalable, it's common language, it's a frame for engagement. And I think the most important aspect is at the end of the day, it delivers results. And, all the models in the world, that intrigue us, mentally, if they don't deliver results, they're not going to stick. And that's why I think ADKAR has been so powerful, is it makes change make sense, right? It's sense making and it's way finding. It helps us find our way through complex change, whether we're organizations of 10 or 50, 10,000 or 100,000.
Well, let's talk a little bit, Karen, about the ProSci, about the company. I mean, here it is, founded in 1994, really focused on change. Incredible sort of social interaction, lots of work in 80 countries, 30 years of research. What is it that keeps ProSci evolving and innovating?
The constant focus, great question. I think it's just the constant focus on change success that we want at the individual level and at the organizational level to have successful change outcomes. We are investing as leaders in organizations, right? When I'm running, a P&L and I'm running a team of people, we invest a lot of a lot of time and resources into the adaptations that we have to make to continue to succeed. And ProSci has, had an opportunity through all of that to focus on knowledge transfer and to help individuals and organizations build their own change capabilities. So we focus on, training services and learning services and resources and thought leadership and the research that informs absolutely everything that we do. So the research informed guidance that thousands of practitioners around the world can share to put those resources in your pocket so you can pull them out at any moment. And that's even further coming to life through our own AI tool called Kaya, which dips into those over 30 years of research and says, hey, build me a sponsor engagement plan for this particular change. And fast and furious, then Kaya, turns out in a matter of seconds an amazing first draft. So we're continuously challenged to say, what is the context for change and how do we come alongside individuals and organizations and organizational leadership to build that change as a capability and to deliver change success.
It's so great. I think about this continuity and change, constancy and continuity to the big polarities and change, constancy and continuity. I recently finished writing my second book, The People Dividend, Leadership Strategies for Unlocking Employee Potential. We're in sort of launch mode, pre-launch mode. So I know that so much work goes into a book. And there's, and certainly the harder part is day two, just like most things. It's called marketing. But so what's, there's a little lull that happens after you put your energy into a book. What's exciting for you now? I mean, in terms of work, in terms of, in addition to continuing to get out the great message about what you're doing.
Yeah, I think the next energizer for me is, continuing to share the ADKAR model and the significant impact it can have. I've had parents tell me and business leaders, CEOs to parents to community leaders talk about the impact of the model. So that's an important aspect of it. And for me, continuing to communicate, to engage to new audiences and give hope for the paths that everybody's carving through, their journeys, whether it's individually, personally, professionally, and to help bring that to life. But yeah, the book process is fascinating. We worked with an outside partner on that, selfpublishing.com, an amazing partner in the process. But we continue to bring it through life through, our educational programs. The new ADKAR book is in all of our training programs now. So it sees an awful lot of eyes and ears every single week around the world. So continuing to see the growth around that, and just has more people. I come face to face with them either in this way or, on stages where you can just sit there and watch the lights come on and people go, there's something here. And it's something that I can put in my pocket and use to look at change differently and to help, myself, my family, my friends, my organization, my community go through the changes that lie ahead. So that's where I'll continue to be, is advocating for unlocking change success and to bring this communication forward, making complex subjects more simple through the model and through the stories.
Well, congratulations on this career milestone you've recently achieved. Congratulations on the new book, the update to the ADCAR Advantage, your new lens for successful change. And all the great work that you and your colleagues at ProSci are doing. So it's the end of the year, Karen, as you're thinking about this. I mean, if there were one or two pieces of guidance that you'd like our listeners to pay attention to, or that you'd like to offer to them, before they visit you at ProSci.com, learn about the book, if there were one or two pieces of advice going into 2025 or a reflection at the end of 2024, what would that be for our audience? And then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, I'd like to say, buckle up, Buttercup is probably part of it. As we continue to see, I think, the AI story that is swirling around all of us is one that I think everyone should get their hands around. And it's interesting. You can get your head around the technical side of it. What does this engine mean to us inside of our work and the things that we're doing? But there's a personal side of all of that, as we're all starting to say, hey, where do I fit in all of this? And, the aspect of the adoption of the technology. And there's still an adoption story, whether it's, ERP systems or CRM or, HR systems or new process, policy, mindsets, tool sets, all the things that shift and change. But I'd love for everyone to imagine the opportunities for the adoption side of those stories. Who's impacted? How are they impacted? How do they need to do their jobs differently? What mindsets and tool sets are going to deliver success? And to be part of those shifts and changes. And we're going to see tremendous opportunity and productivity that comes from that. And the more we can hone our people skills and how we relate, how we connect, how we lift others, how we empower, those are the skill sets, the strategic thinking, the discernment skills. That's the humanness of what we do. And to be able to sit down with people and help them get through those change journeys is something that I think is going to be on top of mind and top of priority for a lot of leaders and organizations.
Well, thank you so much, Karen Ball, ProSci Senior Fellow, Certified Change Management Professor, Professional. It's been a delight to have you on the People Dividend. And until the next episode, everyone, stay well.